good afternoon, everybody. Still from the capital of energy efficiency in Sonneborg, Denmark, from the IEA conference. I'm here with our third speaker, Torben Funder-Kristensen, who is Head of Industry Affairs at Danfoss Climate Solutions. Thank you, Torben, to be with us. It's a great pleasure to have you. You know this industry inside out. You have been with Danfoss for a very long time. So it's really a great pleasure and an honor to have you here. We heard a lot about energy efficiency. We heard a lot about renewables from the previous speaker. Thomas was from the EHPA, was more speaking about the heat pumps specifically, and was already alluding a little bit to the part of sector integration and how we can connect the dots also between heating and cooling and breaking the silos between different sectors. You know this very well. You have worked a lot in this field, so perhaps you can just explain a little bit further how you think sector integration works and why it is of a benefit for society and also a good business case.
Yeah, I'll be happy to do so. Thank you for introducing me, Andrea. Yes, sector integration is really something where you can, of course, combine heating and cooling. On the other hand, we also know that heating and cooling is using electricity a lot. So that is, you can say, the third leg of the sector integration also. So one thing is to use both sides, the heating and the cooling, but also to utilize electricity when the electricity is plenty, meaning that we have a lot of wind and solar electricity, for instance. Then we should use a lot of electricity. We should store heat. We should store the cold also. And you can do that by many ways. For instance, you can have a tank, an ice tank, where you make a lot of ice, which you can then reuse afterwards. You can also export the heat to the district heating system, because the district heating system by itself is an enormous storage, you can say.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. So how do you see this happening? Do you think this is already happening enough, or is this something which needs further push also from a policy perspective, or what can be done to really deploy that sort of?
I think we are in this only in the starting phase. I think we still miss 95% of our opportunities here. We have very, very nice examples, but still there are so many low-hanging fruits we can go for. Just look, for instance, at supermarkets. I think it's a very good example because it's so tangible for most people that inside the store you will have everything cooled down, because of you need to keep your food fresh, and all that energy you basically take out of the food, you transport that energy to the back of the building, and then you leave it to the surroundings, which is really a pity. Yeah? You should use it to reheat your store if it's winter, or you should export it to your neighbors, basically.
Sorry, so for exporting it, that means it would be connected to a sort of district grid, which would allow to basically transport it to the neighborhood.
Yes, exactly. It has to be transported somehow to your neighborhood. It doesn't have to be a very enormous multi-megawatt district heating grid. It can also be a microgrid, for instance, in a village, which would also be more, I would say, affordable locally. I think normally it's very good also to start from where you really can manage the solutions and start having these pilots in smaller areas, smaller communities.
And connecting to what Thomas was saying earlier, you could then also use a heat pump to basically upgrade the temperature of the heat that you recover from the cooling installations, for example.
Yeah, sure.
And that's where you integrate the two.
Yeah. And coming back to the temperatures, of course, you have to try to operate at the lowest possible temperature you should be able to use as a heating, because every time you go degrees up, you have to pay more in electricity for that. Yeah. But I think we have an enormous potential here. If we look in the world, 20% of all our electricity is more or less running through a compressor, either providing cooling or heating. Yeah. And we are used to only use the one side of that compressor. We should use both sides.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. And speaking about the temperature, so we heard a lot about buildings, about heating and cooling of buildings or of neighborhoods, but there is much more to cooling, of course, than just the buildings. We heard a lot today also in the dedicated panel about the cold chain as such, the importance of expanding the cold chain. So perhaps you could tell us also a little bit from your perspective and taking it really to a global level, not just looking at Europe, on where you see the challenges of expanding the cold chain, what needs to be done to really make this happen, and what's also the benefits of having a cold chain in place, specifically also in developing countries.
Yeah, just to start from what you said at the end here, the cold chain is actually very, very old in principle, much older than comfort cooling. Cold chain is really about trying to keep our food fresh as long as possible, and to keep the nutrition value in the food also. We have done that for more than 100 years actually with the processes we know today. Of course, the processes become better, but energy efficiency has really increased here also. Having the cold chain is preserving food, and you avoid loss and waste of food, which is extremely important, because every time you have one piece of food, it represents CO2 emissions. You have used water, you have used land, you have used a lot of energy for basically growing that food in the fields. So when you waste it afterwards, you have to throw it away. It's really, really a pity. It should not be able to happen. And on top of that, then you also have the population growth. So we even need more and more food. Secondly, we know also that population growth is happening in the bigger cities. So it means that you need now to transport the food from the rural areas into the cities also. Again, you need a cold chain. So we are basically lagging behind. We need to do something about that.
Yeah, and definitely we also, that was one of the conclusions also of the panel earlier today, to say that with a well-designed cold chain, which really connects the farm to the fork, we can basically tackle a lot of different issues, where, as you were just saying, we tackle the food security, of course, the energy security, because we reduce, if it's done properly, we reduce the energy use. We tackle health from the nutrition aspect, emissions. So there's really a lot of advantages to deploying a cold chain, specifically also in countries which do not have one.
Yeah,
yet, so.
And that's the problem then also, because you need to establish, you can say, the total economy around the cold chains. You need to ensure that everyone throughout the cold chain is basically having a win situation here. And that can often be a challenge actually. We need to educate people also, so that you are able to maintain such systems. Once you leave such a system in a very remote area, you need people to who are able really to maintain that systems also. It also means that we still need to develop those systems. We need to have electricity for running them, and that electricity, for instance, could come from solar panels.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And the point you made on the people, that comes also back to what Thomas was saying earlier, that we need the skills, we need the installers to be able to make this happen, to install the systems and to maintain the systems and to service them, etc. So a lot of cross-cutting issues there, really. I'm looking at the time. We are fine. There is one question here. What is Danfoss Climate Solutions doing to work with governments to inform and get programs together to get the world to move forward with new technologies? Do you want to say something on that?
Yeah, I think actually we are also arranging events like this. I think that is one thing. We are working a lot in different types of organizations, industry organizations, think tanks, and so on. And we are also working in different, you can call it early cluster formations, where we work together with universities, we work together with our basically competitors, customers, and also governments. Yeah. So that is normally what we want to do actually also to develop not just to sell products. Of course, we want to sell our products also, but it's also about developing our markets.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And I think, I mean, the challenges are massive, the opportunities are massive as well, and I think it's nothing that can be done alone.
Yeah.
That's also something we heard this morning at the conference. It's really a question of teamwork, of joining forces with others, of working together, of, from a Danfoss perspective, providing the technologies to others as well, and really come out with something that that is able to tackle those different aspects that we are facing. So I think we are coming to the end of this session. If I'm summarizing that, we heard a lot. We heard, just say this, to say it again, we heard a lot about energy efficiency. Obviously, we are here at the capital of energy efficiency and at the energy efficiency conference. So energy efficiency really a top priority, specifically in the short term. It will also help bridging a lot of gaps. It goes hand in hand with the deployment of renewables. We should not work in silos, but really bring it all together, make sure that we use the synergies between all those different applications and sectors, and make sure that we bring the benefits of heating and cooling and of a cold chain really everywhere where it is needed, because it ticks so many boxes. It really ticks so many boxes: energy, food, health, emissions, biodiversity, even to a certain extent. So there is, it's really heating and cooling, a very cross-cutting issue, and energy efficiency really the enabler to make it all happen. So thank you very much, Torben, for your insights as well. And with this, we end this live stream. Thank you very much to the audience for having listened to us. And of course, always here to answer questions if there are any questions. Thank you.